Good evening. I'm going to call the County Services meeting to order. I have asked J.P. Pond to do the prayer and pledge for us this evening. J.P. Pond.
Heavenly Father, as we come before you, I come before you not pure in my own eyes. I come to you humbly, asking that we receive countenance, that we would mind you in what we say and do here as we conduct business for the people of the county, what's in their best interest. Pray that you'd forgive me of my many shortcomings. All this in the name of Jesus. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Pond. On to adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? J.P. Dennis.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to add a motion that we have a hybrid meeting on quorum court meetings going forward, where that you can come and have, or stay at home and use Zoom, or come and do it in person, your choice. And also make that available for the public in person or on Zoom. Preferably just all Zoom on that. But anyway, I'd like to make that as a motion tonight.
Okay, a motion for that is a discussion topic or more of as a to be voted on?
Well, a discussion topic. I don't know if we have legal right to pass it for the whole quorum court or not. I'd like to pass it on to the full quorum court. So yes, I'd like to make it a motion that we vote on.
Okay, got a motion by J.P. Dennis. Do I hear a second?
For the sake of discussion, I second.
And a second by J.P. Pond. So that will be added as item number, new item number 7, and public comment will go to item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mr. Pond.
Do I hear a motion to adopt as a motion to adopt as amended?
I move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Got a motion by J.P. Wilson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by J.P. Dennis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted. So the first piece of business is on the emergency rental assistance update. So I've worked very closely with the county to understand the going about with the emergency rental assistance, and so I wanted to provide information this evening on an update of what the county is doing specifically, and then disbursement from FHA and SHA as well. The county, Washington County Emergency Rental Assistance Program was created to help renters dealing with financial challenges related to COVID-19 pandemic. For eligible households, the program offers rental and utility assistance to help Washington County renters avoid eviction or loss of utility services. ERAP was established by the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. This program helps tenant households with paying rent, past due rent balances, thank you, Judge, also known as arrears, utility and home energy costs, utility and home energy cost arrears, rental expenses including rent arrears to April 1st, 2020, utilities including separate stated electricity, gas, water, sewer, trash removal, energy costs such as fuel, oil, and internet. So the county thus far has been dispersing funds for the back rent and for future rent, but has not as of yet on the utility piece, and that is expected to launch in late September for the utility portion. For the funding, just to remind all those in attendance and those watching, Washington County received a grant of $7.167 million towards ERA that the quorum court appropriated at our January quorum court meeting. Again, that was a federal grant we received, that nearly $7.2 million. In 2021, we received an additional $2.2 million of emergency rental assistance, and that was appropriated at our July Quorum Court meeting. And we anticipate an additional $2.2 million of ERA funding in 2022 as well. So 7.1 received and appropriated in January, an additional 2.2 in July, and then we anticipate another 2.2 next year. So the county enlisted help from, as mentioned, Fayetteville Housing Authority and Springdale Housing Authority to provide both with $1.5 million of ERA funding for a combined $3 million between the two housing authorities. In the past a few meetings ago, we gave an update from both groups, and to date, Fayetteville has distributed 100% of their $1.5 million, whereas Springdale has distributed just over $500,000, so they have $900,000+ remaining available to distribute. In addition to partnership with Springdale and Fayetteville Housing Authorities, Washington County is distributing rental assistance funding through Washington County portal hosted by a third-party platform. The provider is a comprehensive participant manager and grant management platform designed to offer government and nonprofit agencies the ability to process applications for emergency benefits. It tracks participants and payee information, determines participant eligibility, and processes payments on paper or via ACH download or integration. It also provides a technical solution, including software, program management, staffing, call center, casework management, financial processing, closeout, and audit support. I had the opportunity to come up to the county a few weeks ago and meet with staff and actually walk through some of the program and how it works. It's really quite an impressive program, pretty robust, all the capabilities it has, and how they're actually working to help people. And it's tracking all along the way the application status, and it's tracking every single contact point that's made with the applicants. So applicants that if they say they miss a piece of information that's necessary, like a document that's required, which I'll mention here in a minute, they're proactively being reached out to by the medium that they've selected, whether that be a phone call, a text message, or an email. So really pretty robust program. One thing I was really proud of Judge Wood and the office with their cultural and linguistic outreach. We know that English is not first language for everyone within the county. And with that, the judge's office is working to identify strategies to reach communities where residents were disproportionately affected by COVID-19. The county has incorporated both Spanish and Marshallese language translation services into their application process. The county has expanded the availability of their ERA application by supporting multiple channels for residents to apply. In addition, our previous partnerships with FHA, SHA, the county is now partnering with the Marshallese Educational Initiative Organization, the Consulate General of the Marshall Islands in Springdale, as well as a Hispanic outreach, including advertising and speaking events. So hats off to you, Judge Wood, and your staff on all that's being done around outreach there. It's really impressive and really appreciated by the community. The county has done trainings additionally and will continue to do trainings for organizations willing to help clients apply through the Washington County portal. So again, the county is open to training. If there's a particular organization that has a certain clientele that is in need, they're willing to actually train you how to go through the application process, and then in turn, your organization can help those applicants and people in need to complete the application. Sorry, winded this evening. So on to the application process piece. Again, I had the chance to come and meet here at the county and actually fill out a kind of a dummy version of the application that would not be fully submitted, but I got to go through the application process and learned a lot through that. So application is 100% online, which is great in the world we live in today with COVID and the concern there. I completed the dummy application in about 10 minutes and was really pleased with how simple and straightforward that application was. As of 8/23/21, so last week, we've had 585 applicants. Of those, 83 have been approved for a total of $102,000 of rental and rental arrears assistance distributed. Applicants are required to provide two pieces of documentation. as part of the rental assistance, which is, these are federal guidelines or federal requirements. This is not what Washington County came up with. This is what the federal government requires. And of the two pieces, it's income verification is the first, and the second is a lease or rental agreement. And the income verification piece can be in the format of 2020 W-2s. It can be income tax form. It can be last 2 months pay stubs, or if unemployed, it can be unemployment compensation benefit letter. So different options there. And then again, a lease agreement. So pretty straightforward application with two pieces of documentation required: income verification and lease or rental agreement. And this is consistent with what is required across the board with rental assistance programs. Applicants can also save their application and come back later to submit these two pieces of documentation. So if they get to a point where they can complete the document, you're building a login, you're saving the login, you can come back and provide both your pay stubs and your lease agreement. And once an application is submitted, they are contacted by the method they prefer that they selected, so either phone, text, or email, if something is missing. And so, as I mentioned, actually, see, each application is tracked, and they have people going in. These caseworkers essentially are going in, and they're proactively reaching out and saying, "Hey, you're missing your W-2s. Can you provide that information?" That's where your application's hung up. So, really, again, robust system. And of the 585 applicants through 8/23, 252 of the applicants are missing one of the two documents. So it's we're seeing some holdup there, and over half of those over half that are outstanding are on the applicant's end. They're waiting on one of the two pieces of information. 44 applicants have been denied through 8/23, and that was because they failed to provide any type of documentation. So once they've been notified so many times, if they don't provide the information, then eventually they're denied. The good thing is, not to worry, they can come back at any point and provide those two pieces of information, and then they will reconsider their application. So if they're missing those documents, they come back and are reconsidered. So there is a landlord aspect to this. So I wanted to walk the court through the landlord piece, and I tried to make this as clear as I could from my understanding. So I'm sure there'll be questions, but hold those until the end. But the landlord piece, the landlord needs to upload their completed W-9 form using a secure link. For each individual applicant, the tenant or applicant must first apply, and once they have been determined to be eligible, then the landlord is prompted or notified to submit that W-9 form. Once a landlord has created an owner record and an applicant has applied and been found eligible, then the landlord will be able to complete their portion of the application for the applicant. Payments are made on a weekly basis, and landlords can view those payments through the portal itself. So now the next question is, are there landlords that don't want to fill out the information or don't want to apply? And the answer is yes, that does happen. So what if that's the case? First, payments to tenants can be made, but will only be made if the landlord refuses to cooperate by submitting a required landlord application. So essentially, there are 3 attempts made by the caseworkers, the call center, the third party we're using, to get a hold of the landlord and ask them to provide this information. Those 3 attempts are made over a 10-day period. If there's no response received, then payment can be made to the tenants. Or the landlord can say, no, I don't want to fill anything out. And if they provide that, if they essentially say, I don't want to deal with this, then we can also provide the tenants with payment. So the landlord piece is part of it, but if they choose not to be, then the tenant still can receive reimbursement. So that's a general overview. We'll continue to provide updates at future county services meetings, and I'll work to provide updated numbers as well along with that. And now I'll open it up to JPs to ask any questions. And with that, I'm going to take those down. And then if you have any separate questions from this evening, if you'll email them to Miss Patty, we'll compile those and bring answers to the next meetings. JP Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually had this come up this afternoon where I'll quickly give it to you. But the owners of a house were going to relocate for a short while to another part of the country. They came back, and the agreement was they could rent the house from them as long as they were there. And when they came back, they would leave. They actually came back and said, well, we've moved back home, so y'all are going to need to move. And they said, no thanks. Talked to our lawyer, slammed the door on them, and wouldn't speak, wouldn't talk to them, said they were staying. Even though that was their home that they were renting out. And so those folks are out of their home. So my question is, I heard you say that the landlord can be involved, but does the payment first go to, which way does it go? Does it go to the landlord or does it go to the tenant?
My understanding is the payment initially goes to the landlord, but let me verify that with the county before I give you
Okay.
incorrect
I
information.
think the landlords are coming out on the short end of the stick on this, because if the tenant gets the money and spends it on other things and then still doesn't pay them, the landlord doesn't have any protection whatsoever. We're making our own poor category of people when landlords can't collect on the property that they own. So I just want to see if that was there. Thank you.
No, that's a great point. We'll take that as a follow-up. Thanks, JP Dennis.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the court? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 5 on the agenda. Item number 5 is an ordinance amending ordinance 2021-12 and changing the date of the May 2022 regular quorum court meeting to accommodate early voting. And I'll turn this over to JP Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a fairly simple ordinance, I think, in that early voting takes place in this room, and sometimes that conflicts with our quorum court meeting. And that happens in May of 2022 unless we change it. The regular date for our quorum court meeting would be May 19th. This ordinance would change it, excuse me, to May 26th. And that way, they won't have to move all the equipment out of here and everything can flow as normal. Then we have our quorum court meeting on the 26th. So I move that we adopt this ordinance and pass it on to the full quorum court for approval.
Second.
Got a motion by JP Wilson to pass 6.1 to the full quorum court. A second, 5.1 rather, and a second by JP Dennis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5.1 passes. Yeah, I don't think so. Item number 6 on the agenda is an ordinance appropriating $256,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act Fund 3046 to pass through payments line item in the 2021 American Rescue Plan Act budget for the Homestead subdivision. JP Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This ordinance deals with the Homestead subdivision. It's in the county. It's not a city subdivision. And we have here with us, in case there are questions tonight, Pam Skinner, the president of the Homeowners Association, Jim Newberry, who's a commissioner for the Improvement District, Nick Batker with McClellan Consulting Engineers, and is David Mintz here also? Okay, so David Mintz is here also in case there are questions. This subdivision is 80 houses. It's on a step sewer system. And we don't believe that it's going to carry them for a long time. We think that the remaining life on it is probably 3 to 5 years. During wet times of the year, you see seepage around in the subdivision already. The subdivision started in 2006. There were several years that it wasn't fully built out, but by the end of this year, it will be as far as houses. The subdivision folks, don't want themselves to become another Bethel Heights. In last year, West Fork completed a sewer pipeline which is less than 1,000 feet away from the subdivision. So without that happening, we wouldn't be talking about this, first of all. And if you miss anything else I say, I want you to catch that this subdivision has a creek on each side of it that goes directly to the West Fork of the White River, and it's less than a half a mile away, and that goes, of course, into Beaver Lake. So if a person wonders, well, why would we want to help this subdivision take care of this need? It's so that we don't have the problem of that system failing and sending sewage into the West Fork of the White River to go on into Beaver Lake. The cost to completely replace their sewer system, which means putting in sewer lines for each house and going down to the sewer system, is estimated to be approximately $2.232 million. The subdivision is attempting or will attempt to attract other funds from other sources, but they're asking us for approval for $256,000 for engineering, surveying, land acquisition, admin, and legal. Do the members have any questions? Is that okay to ask if the members have any questions for the visitors tonight?
I would probably make a motion first,
Okay.
and then once it's second, then we'll do a discussion.
I move approval of this ordinance and its advancement to the Finance and Budget Committee for their consideration. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion. JP Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have actually toured that about 3 or 4 years ago when we were studying step systems, and had a couple of professionals with me, and that's just the one on the right, south of
As you
Baptist Ford.
Past Baptist Ford.
Yes, and they explained and showed me how the mistakes were made in putting that in. So that's no fault of the folks who own it, but at the same time. So I do understand what the situation is. My question is this: we also have Valley View Golf Course, which this court is the one who approved it to begin with, way back, because I came to oppose what they were doing because I thought it was wrong, and I'm a neighbor of it. But who do you spend money for, and who do you not spend money for once we go down this path? Because Valley View, it's cost those folks about, I think about $6 million or $7 million to hook onto Prairie Grove's sewer system. And so every time a neighborhood fails, or the county have to bail them out, is what I'm asking. And what I've learned just even this week is that the county has very little to do with the approval of these systems. The state does. And the state approves the septic systems, and we don't. And so, but if we go down this road to bail them out, then who do we bail out next? And to what extent and how much?
Well, I think that one thing that is important here is that without the West Fork sewer line going very close to this subdivision, it wouldn't, in my mind, be a consideration for us. It is very close, and so I think that's part of it, that is there. Another part of it is that these American Rescue Funds, it is my understanding that water and sewer projects are things that we could do with those funds.
I guess what comes to my mind, just to talk it out, I can't see why they couldn't hook on to $256,000 for 1,000 feet. Why they couldn't just hook on? I don't know why we're doing $256,000 worth of studying and
Right.
engineering when it's not that complicated.
I think it would be good if one of the engineers would address some of
Sure.
the
I'd
shortcomings.
love to hear from them. I didn't know we had an engineer.
Some of the shortcomings of the system that's there now, and why it's not such a simple thing. What's been put in is substandard, is my way of putting it as a layman. They put in 2.5-inch lines pumping uphill
Yes,
to their,
Yeah.
to their septic field.
and the
Makes
pe-
no sense, but,
The people I went with explained that to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And, but if it's downhill, where is the line at? I'll ask the surveyor or
well,
the engineer.
engineer.
So let's call the engineer forward, and
Thank
then we
you.
can.
Yes, if you'd come to that seat. You have to push a button on there.
There. Okay.
Yes, you're on, and if you will, just state your name and company you represent.
Okay. My name's Nick Backer, and I work for McClellan Consulting Engineers in Fayetteville. I guess, thanks for having me, first of all. Appreciate the invite. I guess to speak somewhat to the current system, it is, I think, sounds like JP Dennis, you're aware of the issues there. So something does need to be done here in the near term, but in terms of the costs, the costs that JP Wilson put out, the $2.2 million. I mean, we've put together oh, okay. Can you hear me better now? Oh, okay, sorry. But I was going to talk about the cost estimate that JP Wilson brought up, the $2.2 million. That's something that we've put together in terms of just a budgetary estimate. It's a complete system to run gravity lines to every single house out there, to 80 houses. I mean, there's nearly a mile of sewer line that would have to get put in, and then nearly 2 miles of service line that have to get put in to get every house connected. The $256,000 is an estimated budget at this point for engineering, surveying, land acquisition, everything. It may not cost that much at the end of the day. That's just, we're coming in at about I wouldn't say a 10,000 foot level, but about 1,000 foot level. So we're trying to set a budget that's realistic, high enough to capture everything, not too high, but also not too low. Because the last thing we want to do is say, all this can happen for $1 million, and then we come in and it's $2 million. So I don't know if that's helping answer your question on the costs there, on the cost for the engineering and surveying, and there's quite a bit of design work that goes into it.
If I could, and you fill in what I'm missing here, but I think that maybe what JP Dennis might be thinking of is a normal system where each house has a 4-inch line coming out of it, and why not just run one line down from there to the West Fork sewer line?
Right.
But it's got 2.5-inch line, which isn't going to accommodate everything, if you know what I'm saying. It's got a septic tank in each backyard that it goes into first, and then the fluid comes out of there in a 2.5-inch line going uphill. So in essence, to make this thing work right, you need to put your normal 4-inch line in throughout the subdivision and then down to the West Fork line. So it's redoing the whole thing.
It's just to the west of the subdivision, between there and, it's downhill, it's downhill, but the way every house right now has its own pump, and everything's tied to a common 2.5-inch line that gets pumped up the hill, so.
Sorry.
That's okay. No,
Because it all flows downhill, and then it's pumped back uphill, isn't it?
everything's pumped, into a common line that goes up to the treatment plant right now.
Which is down on the west.
The treatment plant's at the top. It's at the highest point on
Okay.
the
but
east side.
I thought all the plumbing went south first, and then it was pumped up.
No, everything's just interconnected. It's like think of almost like a water system. Everything's tied together. David, correct? I mean, there's check valves that prevent it from pumping into someone else's house, but everyone pumps into the same common line
Right.
that eventually ends up at this treatment plant at the east end on the high ground. So I would love, originally we were hoping maybe we could just tie into that line at one point and run 1,000 feet down to West Fork's line, but that doesn't solve the long-term problem of everyone's got a septic tank in their backyard. They each have a pump. Those are beyond the treatment plant. Those are all going to fail. I know the residents out there are having issues with septic tanks collapsing or the pumps failing, and then they end up backing up sewage into their house, and it becomes a problem there too. So, you know, that could be a Band-Aid solution, but, you know, what we're coming out with is a full solution for that neighborhood long-term where they can not have to worry about it.
So who put the system in and who was paid? Was there a payment every month for sewer? Who got the money? Where'd the money go?
Not sure. I don't know if y'all can answer that question on the money. Do you want to come up and talk about the? Yeah, I'll have to let someone else answer to the money
I believe in
side of it.
following the money, so
Yeah.
if people have been paying money every month, where did the money go?
Oh, Edgy, come up here. Don't leave me. Oh, I'll stay up here first.
I'm Pam Skinner. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association, the Homestead Homeowners Association. I was also the first purchaser of a home in this subdivision. Bordelon Construction is who developed it, and there was, at that time, the management people for the system was called Greenfield. I don't really know who got the money. Bordelon got a bond passed, and in addition to the homeowners currently paying $56 a month for wastewater management, we are taxed on our property taxes $373 per year for this bond. And then that payment is made to the Ozark Bank. Does that answer your question? Okay.
That answers a lot of it, thank you. Let me explain where I'm coming from, like on Valley View. Everybody that moved into Valley View had to connect on to the sewer system. Everybody had to pay so much a month to the owner of the sewer system. Then when the sewer system failed, then the owner failed to take care of them, and they were left with the bill. The residents were left with the bill. And they're still coming out of it, and they're still working on it, and, you know, they're paying more like $150, $160 on sewer per month to pay for theirs. And so I guess I'm trying to represent my constituents of Valley View a little bit, because they're going to say, well, wait a minute, our tax money's going to go bail them out, but nobody bailed us out. They had to get a bond and pay for the whole thing to hook up to Prairie Grove. So that's why I say, who do we pay for and who do we not pay for?
Thank you, JP Dennis. Any other comments from the court? Discussion? Seeing none, I will open it up to public comment.
Are you ready?
JP Lemming.
18390 Dutch Mill South. We're not in the remodeling business of a subdivision. And you're very much right, Robert. The Prairie Groves is a mess. There's one out on County 62 is fixing to be a mess. The one they're building over here by Beaver Lake, the RV park's going to be a mess. If the state of Arkansas is going to come up here and okay all these systems, they need to take care of them systems. We got 1,500 miles of dirt road we can't get graded every day. We got bridges that hadn't seen a paint job in I don't know how long. They're falling down. We need to be taking care of the infrastructure of Washington County, not subdivisions. That's not ours. I'm sorry these people fell into this loop. I'm sorry that happened out there at Valley View, but that's the people's responsibility. This lady mentioned she got a bond. The state of Arkansas got them taxes. They paid for it. The state needs to take care of it. We don't need to be doing this crud. No way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Public comment.
I guess, is there any particular order?
Step up to the mic. Please state your name and where you're from.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be here this evening, and Jim, as I understand that this is special money set aside for this type of project. We're not talking about county money. We're talking about money that the county has received to do these type of projects. Is that right? What the ordinance asks for is to spend some money from the American Rescue Funds,
Right.
which can't be spent for everything under the sun. This is one of the things that it could be spent for, yes.
Okay, so it's coming from a different fund. I would like to express, and answer one of your questions. On the development, the Hawkins Ware Engineering Company of Van Buren was the one that originally developed this permit, oh, by the way, I'm Jim Newberry, Commissioner for District 1, and I deal with facts. I deal with questions. I deal with honesty. If I know, I will answer. If I don't, I'll let you know. I want to appreciate your second, Butch. And I know you guys are good Christian people, and I try to give a good Christian answer in doing this. The problem here is different than the one in Valley View. I am familiar with the one in Valley View. They were paying $75,000 a week to have their sewage hauled off because of what they do. Now, they have a mismanagement problem. They have a mismanagement problem. We don't have a mismanagement problem. We get along with Menco, who is our engineer, and this is a drawing of the field that is in question. This field, for 80 homes, or over 300 people, this little drip field here is 1.173 acres. So it's insufficient. We've already exceeded the number. The water, I've never seen a drip field with a creek through it. Just doesn't make sense. But they drilled it. Our sewer pipes are not hard joined. You know how they're joined? With a radiator hose off of a car with 2 clamps on it. The ground has settled. The sewer system is not bedded. The septic tanks are not bedded, so they're falling away from the houses and creating the problems. We've had 2 leaks that have gone into that creek because it was raining and stuff. It's under optimal conditions right now. But can I read you something from the last report?
You have 10 seconds, Mr. Newberry.
Okay. Is it all right?
I think your time is about out.
All I was going to say is this system has failed, and this is the proof. If you want to read it, you can. It tells you about the 19 leaks that we have in our field that washes the field slopes.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Time has expired.
I second that.
Yes, sir.
There's a motion to extend its public comment time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, what do I do? Continue?
You have 3 more minutes.
Well, in simple, sir, there's pools up here. When it rains, it runs downhill, goes into that gutter system, goes into the creek. Every time I flush my commode, you get a drink of water. And this is the difference between Valley View's management problem and construction and ours. I would like to say that we have had overwhelming success with the mayors. Jim, you've been at the meetings. They've been very cordial. Everybody's working together on the project. When we conducted the house-to-house survey, we got 100% of the people to vote for it. We have a good relationship going with the present contractor, and I'd just like to say this is the first project that I've ever worked on, and I've worked under every judge since Charles Johnson. I was on the 9-county economic district, and I done Jerry Hutton and Judge Edwards and Judge Wood. Whenever he swore me in, I shook my head, and he said, "Did I say something wrong?" And I said, "No, I can't believe I'm doing this again." But I'd like to say that I see this as an environmental issue of astronomical proportion that directly affects our well-being in not that subdivision. I'm not directed towards a subdivision, okay? I'm directed for the Northwest Arkansas. Ken Starr, who was the director of the water facility, which was then another project when we closed the Parsons landfill because it was leaking into the lake, he said, I can take hog urine and make drinking water out of it, but you cannot afford to drink the water. So this is the issue that I'm working with. I have a lot of facts, sir, and I would be glad to furnish them for you. I'm not going to take your time. I'm just going to say that you're either going to address this issue sooner or later, and it's not going to be like a Bethel Heights. It's not going to be like a Valley View or anything else. This directly affects the people. The Game and Fish Department are getting ready to put in a ramp down there that I believe 2 summers ago was closed because of the West Fork E. coli from their sewer plant. It was closed in that section of the river, and we're facing the same thing again. It's not a question. This is a fact. This is a fact. It's not a question of, is this system going to fail? This system has failed. It is failing. We're putting Band-Aid on a cancer.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Newberry.
I
Your time
appre-
is expired.
But
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate your time and everything. I'm not going to take your time. I'm just going to tell you, this is an important issue.
Thank you,
and-
sir. Your time has expired. Any other
Okay.
public comment?
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, JP Pond.
I just, I had a question. I believe Mr. Newberry might be familiar with this. It's been a few years back, but some regulations on the federal level were put in place that had to do with, well, the total maximum daily load and some storm drain runoff and that sort of thing. And because of that situation, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the federal government, because we approved this system, can come in and sue us for a whole lot more money than what they're asking to pay to correct this. We being the ones that approved it to start with even at Mr. Dennis's protest at the time. It's okay. So what we're talking about here doing is taking some federal dollars and using them to correct something that's gonna cost us a whole lot more in federal lawsuits. We wind up not doing anything about it. Nothing I got to say is very good. I'm sorry. Now, I got you all cheered up. We ought to go ahead and pass this on to the full quorum court. Maybe get the
Thank you,
county
JP
attorney to
Pond.
do a study on this before the meeting in case I'm a little incorrect on this, but I
Thank
don't
you, JP
believe I
Pond.
am.
We still have 3 minutes remaining, 3.5 minutes remaining in public comment. Public comment.
Well, actually, since he got 6 minutes, you shouldn't count those 3.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. Thank you. My name is Beth Coger. I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. First of all, I don't see how the county could be sued. It was the state health department that approved this on January 13th, 2006. I know this has been said, but I suspect that if this ordinance passes tonight, it's going to open a floodgate of other private subdivisions coming to ask for assistance who need help to install or upgrade their water and sewer system. I want to remind this court, last month, J.P. Chandler Washington came with an ordinance similar to this to ask that the county fund a nonprofit to help with food distribution to feed the hungry. At that meeting, this court said that you needed more time to vet and to get more information. So tonight we have J.P. Wilson coming forward with an ordinance, and unless there's been something going on, other discussions, then I think the court has not had an opportunity to properly vet this and get more information. So I ask that your court table this, but to table it until after the county has community conversations where community members can come and give their input about what we need to do with this American Rescue Plan money. Right now, Washington County has no plan. Having no plan when you have this much money is a lot like starting the year with no budget. You're just going to be piecemealing things out. I lost my place. I don't remember what I was going to say, but okay, Benton County has a portal where they let applicants come to their portal and apply online for projects like this. I think that would be a good thing for Washington County to look at, because then they have a committee to review the applications. It's correct that our American Rescue Plan money can be used for water and sewer, but I think we need to prioritize what we spend our money on because it's a one-time deal. And like I said, you're going to be flooded with other people coming forward with water and sewer problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coger. Public comment.
Hi, Sarah. It's very low. Sarah Moore, Fayetteville, sorry. I appreciate the discussion that's been had tonight about this item, and I appreciate J.P. Wilson bringing it forward because he was listening to the people in his area and had concerns. However, we have had many conversations over the last couple of months, and even recently, and Chair Duncan, you spoke to the leadership of Judge Wood. Judge Wood actually talked about we probably should pause and we should have these community conversations. Benton County is doing that, and they're vetting out all the things. I think that all communities, all 15 districts across the county should have equal footing and should have the opportunity to have full discussion of all the things that are needed within their communities. If the county doesn't hold it, we actually are having Cookout community conversations, and we'll be in your districts. Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition is inviting the JPs to please come and meet with your constituents, have burgers and hot dogs, try to be distanced and safe, but we're going to talk about where people want to spend this money. This money is meant to be specifically prioritized towards communities that were vulnerable and were very impacted by COVID, and we should prioritize their needs. Those are things like healthcare capacity, those are things like job training, those are things like probably additional utility assistance and trainings, and small businesses are needing loans and grants. And so let's vet all of those opportunities across all 15 of the districts before we start picking what we spend this money on. And let's not forget, we sent an ordinance forward recently against these monies that potentially builds a $20 million jail. We only have $23 million right now we're sitting on. So we potentially only have $3 million right now in the bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. We have a motion on the floor to pass item number 6.1 to the full quorum court. Ms. Patty, will you please take the roll?
Sean Simons, Robert Dennis,
No.
Suki Hires, Evelyn Rio Stafford, Jim Wilson. Yes. Butch Pond. Yes. And Sam Duncan. I have 2-1, so I guess
So
it passes.
my understanding is yes, it passes if it's majority of the quorum. So item 6.1 passes to the full quorum court for discussion. Item number 7, hybrid meetings. JP Dennis.
I think I'm more concerned now on COVID than I was back in February. And I know that we had Zoom meetings then. I think it's time to bring back a hybrid or a combination of the way we do things. Those who want to come, come. Those who don't want to come, use Zoom on members. And then I'd like to limit how many come as guests as well, and give them time to talk on Zoom. So that's why I wanted to move that we have a hybrid meeting using Zoom, making Zoom available, and meeting in person for all of our quorum court meetings.
Thank you,
going
JP
forward.
Dennis. I hear a motion to resume hybrid meetings. Do I hear a second? A second by JP Pond. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from the court? JP Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, the word quorum court meetings, is this specifically for quorum court meetings, or are they committee meetings? So I'd like some clarification on that point, please. Thank you.
My intent, whether or not it was verbalized or not, would be all of our meetings, all of our quorum court committee meetings and quorum court meeting. Now, if we need to, maybe there's some budget restraints that I don't know about. If that's the case, then let's discuss it and maybe we have it less. Committees are a lot fewer people most of the time, but not all the time. And I'm doing it for safety, not for any political reasons. I just, I just think we're flirting with danger. I just see so much of it now, and so many friends that I've had that have died, and some of them have died and had the shot. And so I just like for us to be more careful, and that's the way we can be more careful. So I just want it voted on, talked about. Thanks.
Thank you, JP Dennis. Any other discussion from members of the court? JP Pond.
I see more value in the ability to choose whether you're a court member or whether you're a member of the public to come in personally or meet with us by Zoom. I might not like the idea of I might not like the idea of the limit. People need to be able to come if they see fit to come. And if they don't like the situation, they can still attend by Zoom. That's
Agreed.
just
Agreed.
me personally. I won't arm wrestle with you over that
No,
part of it.
we're saying the same thing. I
Yeah,
just,
thank you.
you know, we've got a limit on the window that says what a limit is already for
Sure.
out there.
Okay.
In a way, though, if you provide Zoom, then it keeps people at home that are marginal. There's people many times that will come with a headache, even though they think it's allergies. I always hear that. It's allergies, it's allergies, it's allergies.
By passing this on to the full quorum court, it gives the rest of the court members and the public time to think it over.
It's true. Thank you.
Thank you.
JP Wilson, the floor is yours.
I think the thing that's missing, I believe, in this motion that you've made is there's no time limit or tied to the circumstances that we're facing at this time. So it would seem like that it needs to have either a time limit, like 60 days, or it needs to refer to the caseloads coming down or something. I don't think that we want to try to do this on a permanent basis. And I think that it needs to be tied to what's going on with the pandemic somehow.
Parliamentary-wise, if it's allowed, I would reword or restate it and put a time limit of when Washington Regional Medical Center says that it's down, we can start back with just regular meetings.
My concern is that's not within our purview to make this decision, that's established by state. So that's my concern. I would like to see this in a written ordinance format with how, like, timing and exactly how you'd like to have it done. So I appreciate the discussion, and I'm going to make the motion. This is tabled until there's an ordinance to support the discussion, or to support exactly what's being spelled out, and also understanding if we even have the purview as the quorum court to make this decision. So I'll make that motion to table. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
So we'll start and vote on the motion to table, and if that fails, then we'll vote on the motion that will, I suppose, need an ordinance for the quorum court meeting. Ms. Patty, do I need public comment for
Table?
motion to table? I don't. Okay.
No discussion for tables.
Will you please take the roll?
Okay, Sean Simons, Robert Dennis,
No.
Suki Hires, Evelyn Rios Stafford, Jim Wilson,
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
So it passes.
Awesome. Motion is tabled. Moving on to item number 8, public comment. Open up the floor. We'll have 12 minutes for public comment, 3-minute limit per individual. Please state your name and where you're from.
Josh Moody, Fayetteville. I appreciate JP Dennis's leadership tonight in bringing this to the committee. I think making available to the public all goings-on with the government operations, especially public meetings, I think that is, in essence, what county services is. I appreciate that JP Dennis and JP Lemming were concerned with the subdivision proposal. I think they're absolutely right. You're opening up Pandora's box, but by a very small margin, we're passing that on to the quorum court. Ironically, had we had a full court or full committee tonight, which we don't because of COVID, that probably wouldn't have passed, and this last thing possibly would not have been tabled. I didn't prepare anything tonight, but I think it's disheartening that we're not focusing on county services when we're not even talking about money, because we are already paying for Zoom. It's already available. It's already, I guess, part of the county budget. It's not going to cost anything extra to go ahead and make it available to anybody else who wants to be here virtually. Meanwhile, without any public meetings so far on how to spend ARP funds, we're continuously $250,000 at a time taking it off. And by the finance chair's comment, it's not a windfall. $23 million, you're right. $250,000 at a time, it can be gone in no time. And we haven't even come up with a plan on how to prioritize how to put that money to best use to serve the greater good. We're just a little bit at a time. Somebody comes in with an idea or a thought or a, hey, maybe we should use it for this or that. And we're passing it on, and we're passing it on, and we're passing it on. But then when other people come, hey, we could feed people, that gets tabled until October. So I expect by October we're going to have these public meetings. I fully expect, I think September is very reasonable. I fully expect sometime in the next 6 weeks before we continuously pass things on and on and on that cost money and table things that don't cost money. This makes no sense. I don't understand what we're even doing here. But due to COVID, we're short multiple people tonight. I think everything should have been tabled until we could all get together, either virtually or in person. Sorry for rambling. Thank you. Thanks for your clarifying question. I was curious about that too. I agree it should be available for all committee meetings. So, thanks.
Thank you. Public comment.
Still Sarah Moore in Fayetteville. I wanted to thank the committee for, and especially the chair, for taking the time to go and look through the rental assistance portal. I understand that you had a pretty smooth process. However, I want to tell you that I've been out in the community with our vulnerable folks that are barely scraping by, and for them it's not a simple process. And so I want to bring to light a few things, and I'm happy to follow up with you and schedule time, as well as any of the other members of this court, to tell you some of the hurdles that we're sharing with Judge Wood's office, and I know you're all open to being flexible and to improving the process over time, and I am seeing that, although, we do know that the moratorium just ended, and so making those changes as quickly as possible, the money getting out the door as quickly as possible is more urgent now than it ever was. I understand that there's now been a agreement between the Marshallese, MEI, and the consulate, but unfortunately, people in the community were actually doing that work for no pay to make sure those community members were serviced up until just now recently current. And so I applaud that now is happening. However, I just hope in the future that we'll start thinking about those accessibility points. And while I applaud that we are online, that is a tremendous hurdle. I would love to see, if you have looked to see the contact breakdown that people ask for, they can do text, they can do email, they cannot do phone, they do not get contacted by phone or by snail mail. I actually have people say, I don't have any of these other means, I need it by snail mail. I mean, do you really ask for your communications by snail mail? I don't. And things get lost if they come in the mail for me because the mail is not a priority. So I have a lot of concern for vulnerable folks that are, what's that breakdown of how people are asking to be contacted? Additionally, 5 days ago, in an effort to try to get money out the door, there was a self-attest that came forward that folks can just self-attest that they've been impacted by COVID and about their income. And so that's a hurdle like that you talked about that's been an issue with people being able to put that information in to get their payment. They can actually just write on a piece of paper, I've been impacted, and upload that. And so I would ask the county to really consider that being accepted going forward. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said something. I apologize. And then the other thing I wanted to ask about is there was a mention with a contract with Reframe that they're offering case management, and I'd really like to hear what that definition is, because case management in our community is really getting their boots on the ground and meeting all the needs of that individual, following up with them one-on-one, calling them. But like I'd mentioned earlier, I'm not in the know as to whether or not those case managers are actually phoning these individuals if they can. I think it's usually text or it's email or it's by mail. And so I would just urge us to look into those folks that actually are going into the community right now or volunteering their time. And there's a big opportunity with 10% of these monies can be done with as administrative cost. We could be paying nonprofit organizations to mobilize and go into communities to get the money out faster if we were able to do that. And I'd really like to ask that to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Public comment.
Thank you, Lisa Aggie, Springdale. Just to follow up on point of clarification, Chairman, you made a wise decision and a prudent course of action in tabling the discussion of J.P. Dennis because it's not in the form of an ordinance. You can pass the discussion on to the full quorum court, but there is no action that can be taken because it's nothing more than a discussion. So I'm doing this as point of clarification for everybody to understand the wise direction in tabling this motion until Justice Dennis has an opportunity to get together with either County Attorney Lester or Garrett to write this in a legal ordinance that is specific to time, committees, and so on, because they have the information for the state. So I'm saying this in defense of the court, where sometimes the public doesn't realize what the process is, and I wanted to share that process with the public, because sometimes we get berated and insulted as a bunch of dummies, and why do you do what you do? Not that Mr. Moody did or ever has done. He's been very respectful, and I want to clarify that. So it is a prudent course of action, Mr. Chairman, in tabling this with the recommendation it should not come before the court until there is a proper ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment.
More of a question and a comment. Jim, our $256,000 to continue on with our project, was that approved?
ask
Or
that
was
you
that
take that
tabled?
question after the meeting. Public
Oh.
comment is to address the court with any public comment you have, and it's not more of a question-answer response type topic.
Our permit expires in 2023, and so that's the end of it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anybody want to buy a house? I'm selling mine.
Public comment. Seeing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.